Apologies for being a couple of minutes late, but a warm welcome to the second edition of the Magpie Circle live YouTube show tonight. And as part of our philosophy of educate, entertain, enlighten, we're going to have perspectives tonight from a chairman, a journalist, and a supporter. So pretty much a wide gambit. First, I'd like to welcome Stephen Cleeve, the Kings Lynn owner and chairman. Thank you very much indeed for joining us tonight, Stephen.
Thank you very much for having me.
No, it's a pleasure. Looking forward to chatting about what makes someone own a football club. Right, Leigh Curtis, I presume you're just back from Morpeth, are you?
Yeah, it was. To be fair, it wasn't a bad journey down and up really, because the A1 in it straight up, and it's only a couple of miles off the A1. So yeah, it was. Pitch was a bit interesting, but it was a good, solid performance in the end. And Morpeth were absolutely brilliant hosts, absolutely superb.
Good live stream. We saw the video and the laser show, and I'm sure thanks to Stephen, Kings Lynn will be putting on a similarly professional stream for us on Boxing Day. Chris Buckley, Pride of Nottingham, independent Notts fan site. Lovely backdrop. You've done better than all of us there. There's a few players there. Chris, thanks for joining us, and we'll be looking forward to getting the genuine fans' perspective tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Festive period. 2 games against Kings Lynn, home and away. Away on Boxing Day. We're joined by the Kings Lynn owner and chairman. It's been a pretty fairy tale ownership period for you since you took over with the club languishing several divisions lower. I guess the first question is, what makes you be owner of a football club?
Well, I'm not good enough to play football, sadly. Yeah, so I had to find something else to get involved, or a way of getting involved with it. And, you know, football's a game that I've always enjoyed watching. I've watched, a game every week since I've been 11 or 12 years of age. So it's just a passion of mine, and I wanted to get involved in the club. I was living in Norfolk, and Norwich is out of my price range, and that
only just
quite considerably. And then that really left Kings Lynn, and also Kings Lynn's a club with legs. I thought it was an area which has been a little bit neglected over the years. It's had a few, everyone's had good owners, bad owners. I don't want to say it's had bad owners, but it's had its difficulties, shall we say, and gone bust a few years ago. I think it's gone bust a couple of times, maybe 3. But the point is, it's in an area where its biggest positive is also its biggest negative. It's miles away from anywhere, which means it's hard to recruit players. If you draw a circle around the club, it's obviously half of it's in the sea, which doesn't normally produce much talent. And the other half, of course, we've got Peterborough one end, which is probably our nearest club, and Norwich the other. So it gives us a large catchment area as well, which is great. But of course, also means we're a bit out on a limb to try and bring players in, but equally the supporters are there. So that's what happened. I can't speak for other owners, but that's what I got. That's why I got involved.
You've done remarkably well, may I say so, and now one step away from the Football League. But we were chatting a little bit earlier. Talk to me about the model at this level for you, because you kind of have ourselves, Notts County at one level, which is run as a proper professional Football League standard club in terms of budget. Stockport likewise going heavily for it this year, Torquay, Wrexham, those sorts of clubs with big Football League pedigrees. And then just yourselves. So are you full-time, hybrid model, part-time? How do you do it?
No, we started off at the beginning of the season very much as a part-time club. After a few weeks, it became pretty obvious to all of us, really, to the manager, Ian Culverhouse, and to myself, that if we carried on that way, he doesn't have enough time with the players. It's no point trying to cram everything in on a couple of evenings a week, and one of those evenings can equally get cancelled if we have a midweek game. So it's one evening a week, and there's only so much you can do, even if you are a miracle worker, trying to educate players with an hour and a half or so, and especially after they've had a long day at work. So we've come up with a kind of hybrid model that the lads come in on a Monday, they train on a Monday, they train on a Tuesday, they train on a Thursday evening. Not everyone can do every day, but most players can, and that's our model now. So that's how we do it. And obviously, nothing Wednesday, nothing Friday, but that gives the manager more contact time with the players, and that allows him to get his message across, and his tactics and his formations and his set pieces, and that I think that's going to work as well as it can do at the moment. I mean, to go full time, obviously, we have to compensate the players for their loss of income, and that would put up our wage budget to a level which we, at the moment, couldn't afford. So, especially in the current situation that we find ourselves in. So that's our model at the moment.
Without betraying trade secrets and commercial confidentialities, so Notts County's budget is somewhere between £1 and £2 million. Okay, overall budget,
sure.
And it's probably nearer 2 than 1. Where are Kings Lynn?
Oh, we're nowhere near 1. So we're nowhere near. Look, the only way I can describe it is when I came in, our budget was about £3,000 a week, which I took it over, something of that nature. And it's no.
So £3,000 total budget for all players.
Everything.
And manager.
That's what I took when I took it over on day one. I think that's what the budget was: 3 or 2.7 or 2.8, and and that, to be fair, in the league below when I took it over was okay. That was all right. That's pretty decent, I think. The problem comes when you hit step 3, which is say we're step 1 at the moment, step 3. That budget is not good enough. Well, it's not enough to get you promoted, and also that's where it becomes tricky because it's below when we were. I mean, I wasn't there below that, but below that we were getting great crowds. 1,000, 1,100 people coming through the door because we were winning every week, and the budget wasn't very big, so it made financially the business made great sense. But from a football perspective, that there's a kind of tipping point, where you need to get the crowds coming in and the budget needs to go up. It's very, very tricky. So from our side of it, our budget is nowhere near £3,000 anymore. It's gone up by multiples of that, but it's still nowhere near what you guys are on. Essentially, you're a league football club just having a bit of a holiday at the moment. Yeah,
it's anything but a holiday. I can't promise you that, but I know what you mean.
You get to do a few different grounds and see a few different ways of life. But look, it's difficult for us. I mean, we're trying to set up a community scheme. We've set the charity up. We haven't got the bank account because no banks are opening bank accounts at the moment, so our accountant is desperately trying to sort that out. And it's about putting lots of things in place in a very short period of time. And there's only so many things that one can do in a day. So I try to cherry pick the low hanging fruit. Our sponsorship income is the highest this year it's ever been, even though no one's in the stadium. So that's great. I mean, obviously we are having a few in the stadium now, which is good. But it is tricky, and we have to box very, very clever to be able to stay where we are. But equally, I would say our budget's not the lowest in the league. It certainly isn't. So there are clubs that are doing better. Well, I say better; they're doing as well as us, on less. But the only thing I would say about those clubs is they are in an area where there is perhaps an easier metropolitan area where there's more recruitment possible. So, there's no perfect scenario in football. You get what you get, and you have to try and do what you can do with what you've got, and that's really it. And I think we've done what we can do with what we've got. The manager has motivated the players and made the players better, and put them on a different path, and that helped us. And the recruitment we've done is with people like the director of football, Robbie Back, and others that we brought in have done a good job bringing in the right player, not just the right player, but the right type of player. The right personality and the fit, because they're quite a tight knit bunch of guys. Into the club. So those things combined, and then all I can do, I can't influence them. I'm not really responsible for any of it. All I've done is try to put the right people in place and let them get on with it. And that's all I can really do.
Now, one player I think that will be front and centre of a lot of Notts County people's minds for these games is you have a lad called Jordan Richards, son of one of and I do genuinely mean the all-time Notts County greatest players ever, over 400 appearances, very, very influential sweeper. He was only 5'8", 5'9" tall, played sweeper for Notts in the top flight. Liverpool, Man U, 1981 to 84, absolute legend of a player. Didn't quite work out for him at Notts. He made 15 to 20 appearances, probably, in my opinion, unfairly released. But our loss is your gain. Tell us about Jordan.
Yeah, so Jordan came to the club. I had a manager for a little bit of time called Simon Clark, who was at Notts County.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, Simon. Yeah.
He was. I can't remember what he was. He your under 21 coach?
Yeah, he was some sort of a coach, assistant. Yeah.
something of that nature. Anyway, so he came to the club for a few weeks, and
oh dear, is that short? Was it?
Yeah, I mean, look, it wasn't that Simon recruited very well. Yeah, he brought in some lads, he brought in Aaron Jones, our right back, who's still there today. He's brought in some great players, so you've got to give him credit for what he did. It's just sometimes it doesn't always work, in football. It's no one's fault, no one's to blame. It just doesn't always happen for you. And you know what it's like in football. It's all right when you bought yourself some time, but you've got to hit the ground a little bit running, and especially when he was following on from Ian Culverhouse, he was the meat in the sandwich before Culverhouse when Culverhouse came back. So it was tricky to follow in Alex Ferguson's shoes. It's the same kind of thing to a lesser extent. We're following in Ian Culverhouse's shoes. So, but obviously the player Jordan was known to Simon, because of his relationship with Notts County, and he said to me, he's a player. He rang me, he's a really good player. One night, and I said, great. He said, can we get him? I said, of course you can. Yeah, go get him. So we went and got him. It took a little bit of persuading, because I don't think Jordan had heard of Kings Lynn, let alone where it was. So it took him a while to persuade him. And then he came in, and it's been over this. I think it's 3 seasons. I think this is his 3rd season now. And he's got football in the family blood. I think his uncle's Wes Morgan, the Leicester City defender. So it's clearly there, and I don't know what he's doing with this. I don't mean that in a nasty sense, but I think he's a good player. What I call him is a bit like, some players don't always shine. So when a scout turns up, they don't always shine in terms of, they're not the obvious standout player. So if you can imagine Claude Makelele when he was at Chelsea, which was my team, he didn't necessarily shine out, but it was the most stupid move I think Real Madrid ever made, selling Claude Makelele to Chelsea, because it was a great buy for Chelsea and a dreadful move for Madrid. And he just breaks the play up, does the simple stuff, passes the ball on. And I put Richards in that very much. He's not necessarily plays that role, but he's in that kind of category of player where he doesn't necessarily shine as a beacon, but what he does is so important, for the team. And he scores some important goals. We had to play a super playoff final at Warrington, and he scored for that day. So he's a hard-working player. He doesn't cause me problems. He never rings up moaning. He's not a money-grabbing kind of so-and-so ringing me up saying, "Can you do this? Can you do that?" We've had a few of those, not many, but he's not that kind of player. He's just a hard-working lad that wants to play league football. And I just think a lot of, and I don't mean this rudely, but a lot of scouts that turn up don't necessarily know what they're actually looking for, and he wouldn't stand out. But if someone was to watch him, throughout the game, he would stand out. They'd say, "Oh, he did this and he did that, and he was influential in that move over there." And that's probably why he's still with us. But anyway, he's 23 now, so he's got a long future in the game ahead of us, and he's got great footballing pedigree, and he's a great footballer. So hopefully you'll see on Boxing Day.
Let's move to Leigh. Thank you for your patience, Leigh, and we'll be with you shortly, Chris. So Leigh, you remember Jordan playing for us? I mean, I thought he was a bit unlucky to get cut.
I think the problem with a lot of these young kids who get released by clubs is that we have to remember that, with no disrespect to Kings Lynn, the level of expectations are far different. So if I'm a manager like Neil Ardley or whoever was in charge at the time, Kevin Nolan or whoever, the pressure is on you to get results. And now young players need time and opportunity to grow. But when there is that pressure to get results, I don't necessarily think that young players, and I'm pretty sure if you spoke to a lot of managers, they'd say the same, that they haven't got the time to put these players in and let them sort of slowly grow and develop. So you look at the likes of Colby Bishop, Sam Osborne, Jordan Richards, another one, obviously. They have to tend to sort of leave, go down, and then find their way back up again. If that makes respect, they're given more chance to impress. They're given that time because the managers at these respective clubs aren't under the same kind of pressures as a club like Notts County or Lincoln City or whoever you want to say. So that's why I think they do end up moving down the divisions somewhat. So I just think it's the expectation, really.
Expectation, great. I mentioned this before with Graham Taylor on many occasions. He was always talking to me about expectation levels and trying to manage supporters' expectations, owners' expectations. Chris, you're a fan. You're a fan. Where are you with everything this season? Because right now we're looking good, but sometimes fans will always moan to an extent or born out of frustration. What's your take on our season so far?
I think it's gone quite well, to be honest. I think that if we think about where we was last season, this year we've definitely improved on that. I think the main thing Notts County have been doing is building a solid team. It's been a while since we've had players like Cal Roberts that we've actually signed and renewed their deals. You know, that's a positive sign, and they can settle. It takes a long time to build a team that, you know, we're really comfortable and can play that philosophy that the manager tries to incorporate. So I think the season's been quite decent, to be fair. You know, obviously we want to be chasing promotion, but at the same time, I think we need to get behind the players and just try to push the club forward as we can as fans. But, you know, it's pretty decent of a season if we compare that, to last season.
It's very interesting, isn't it? Because we almost judge from week to week, don't we? You know, and definitely. I was talking with Leigh about this on the phone. Before Stockport, there were just a little bit of pressure building among some of the fan base. We go out and beat Stockport on the telly. Very, very professional performance. Very, very professional. We win. We're third. There's a few days before the next game, and everything is kind of quelled back down again. I mean, what are the expectations for you as the owner, for the manager, for the fan base this season? I mean, is it too, you know, is it too glib just to say you're looking to stay up this season?
No, I think that's what we've got to do. I think we've worked so hard to get up. It would be a terrible, you know, injustice to ourselves to throw that away, and have to do it again. So I think the most important thing is that we keep up, and then, you know, could we end up 7th or 6th and be on the minor playoff places? Well, this league is so, you know, who knows? Yeah, everyone just moves around so quickly and beats everyone. You never know who's going to win a game. It's just so confusing for me. I look at it and think, oh, this, you know, I mean, watch Weymouth beat Maidenhead in the trophy at the weekend. I didn't look at the teams to see who played out, but that, you would never have predicted that, you know, and that's what happens in this league. So yeah, look, if we stay up and that's all we do, I'm not bothered. I'll be happy with that, because I think we've had back-to-back promotions. Yeah. It is difficult because, you know, obviously Ian was at the manager was at Dagenham as an assistant manager to, I think, John Steele there, so he knows a little bit about the level, but I think we didn't know how well our lads would do at this level. We had to see, you know, whether they were, you know, up to it, and whether they could put up with the travelling and cope with it and do their day jobs, etc. And, you know, that's, so it's a learning experience for us as well, you know. It's difficult because our fans play a huge part in our position, and, you know, you could see when we had the fans back from Torquay last Saturday, it made a difference. There was only 600 there because everyone's terrified. But anyway, we won't go down the road and talk about all that. But it made a difference. You know, it was great. It spurs them on. It gives them that extra 5%, and that extra 5% is sometimes what we need to stay in some of the games. And we got a credible point out of it. It could have been all three. We could have been beaten, but it was a great game of football. So I think as a football club, if we end up just staying up, then I wouldn't be disappointed with that, because that allows us to have a base and form a base, and then you know, grow from there. But of course, when I turned up at the club, I did say I wanted to get in the Football League, and that, you know, that desire, that passion, if you want, is still there. Whether we'd achieve it or not, time will tell. But you've got to have it, something to aim for, otherwise you never end up anywhere.
Leigh, last week after the Stockport game, there was the interview with Ben Turner.
Yes.
Probably one of the best interviews I've heard from a Notts player in a long, long time. A long, long time. And I know you picked up on that. But I thought it was very interesting that Ben volunteered that the manager had, if you like, privately questioned the mentality and desire of that group of players to achieve promotion. Very, very interesting.
Yeah, it was a brilliant interview. I mean, Ben's actually probably the most articulate players, you know, at the football club in terms of the way he comes across in interviews. You know, very humorous, very honest, very self-deprecating. But you're right about, you know, obviously challenging the squad on their mentality, and I think Neil sees it a bit like the fans do, is that Notts have no problem turning up for the big games. I mean, we proved it last season. You know, the record against the top 7 was very, very good. Went to Barrow, beat them. Went to Harrogate, beat them. You know, Boreham Wood, beat them. So there's no problem, it seems, for Notts in the teams that are in and around them challenging for promotion. it doesn't seem to be a problem in winning those games. It's, as we say, it's the Dagenhams, it's going to the Dovers on the opening day of the season. I think that's what Neil was trying to sort of say is, have you got the mentality to do what you do against these big teams, like they did against Stockport on Tuesday? Do it every week. You know, it's no good doing it once every 3 games, 4 games. You have to be relentless. And I hope that the performance against Stockport last weekend, when they absolutely ran their socks off, that the penny dropped in the dressing room. And I think the players, it was interesting to hear that what Ben said about Neil actually as a manager. What Neil said really hit home with the dressing room, because he's not a ranter or a raver and a proper student of the game, as Ben called him. That when he said it wasn't like, you know, if he was ranting and raving, it would just go in one ear and out the other. It was almost like, oh, hang on, he doesn't usually say this sort of thing. So it really hit home, and clearly they took it on board, because they're absolutely fantastic last Tuesday. And what was particularly more pleasing was the fact that the amount of changes that were made at the weekend for Morpeth, you know, the players who probably on the fringe of the first team came on and carried on the good work and looked like they wanted to prove a point. Another clean sheet. So now Notts are in this really healthy position where they're going into the Christmas period of having a great first 11, but, you know, the squad, you know, the players in reserve are literally snapping at everybody's heels. And I think that's a great position to be in. I thought Matty Wolf was tremendous on Saturday. I think he's given Neil a proper headache for the game, because he was outstanding and showed us, you know, just what a good player he is. But of course, you've got the form of Michael Doyle and Jake Reeves. So it's the competition for places is so fierce. And I think moving forwards, that's a great position to be in. And what was it, 1 defeat in 8 now? So it seems to be like Notts are building this momentum, as we saw before COVID struck. And as I've always maintained, Notts seem to be a team that thrive on that momentum. Once they hit it, that, you know, they can be very, very hard to stop, as we saw before, you know, the pandemic struck.
What's your take, Chris? Because, you know, Ben has pointed out on occasions he's not always been the fans' number 1 choice. Yeah. What was your take on that interview performance last week?
I thought the performance was really good on the basis of how we keep stopping and starting. But the interview that Ben gave was honest, and he's been under some criticism with the own goal he conceded. And you just want to see the players like really push forward with their performance. You know, we started the season off quite well, and it was the coronavirus that sort of like made everything stagnate, and it was difficult for us to come back from that. And I think for me, Chesterfield was one of the biggest games of where we've now had a turning point, and the form started to increase. We've seen Jake Reeves, who's, you know, he's been a phenomenal signing for Notts this season. He's really picked up Michael Doyle, who brings the best out of his passing. But yeah, I think that the way that things are going at the moment, you know, it's moving quite nicely forward.
Stephen, we were at Morpeth on Saturday. When I say we, the proverbial we, there was only Leigh that was able to make the journey up there. And I think it's fair to say the pitch wasn't the greatest. And why should it be? At the end of the day, Morpeth's budget is very different. You've obviously got the game Tuesday night, which you've already alluded to. The manager's not very happy about that. Not ideal Tuesday, Friday. No. I've done a bit of research, and you've played on your ground since it's 1879 or something. So it's kind of like a stadium that's steeped in football history, and I think your record crowd is something like 12,000. So the actual, and I last went there about 40 years ago. So the blueprint of the stadium is what I call a proper football ground.
Yeah, I mean it's a charming ground. You know, it backs onto a Grade 2 listed park. The ground's called the Walks, and it backs onto the Walks, which is a little bit confusing for people. But anyway, but it's the same place. And it's got a main stand which holds about just over 1,000 seats, which I think the fans built or paid for to be built in the 1950s. I think it was opened, and it's, as you say, I think it's had 12,000 in there before. It's some of the terrace has been lost, so it's not quite that big. I think we're only allowed 5 and a bit. It's less than 5, but it will be 5 and a bit once we've done a few more ground improvements. But it's got a very nice feeling about it. It's in the centre of the of Kings Lynn. It's not stuck out on the outskirts in a warehouse park or something. You know, it's smack bang in the centre, and it's a great stadium, and it's, you know, for us, having Notts County down on Boxing Day, it's fantastic. It's the result of all the hard work that the lads have done to get to where they are. Their reward is playing Notts County on a Boxing Day. The manager, from our perspective, you've got the best ground without doubt in the league, and when we turn up at your place on the 1st of January, the manager won't need to say a lot to motivate the players. They'll just look around and that will motivate them. You've got a slightly different problem Neil Ardley has, because he's got to say, look, this is Kings Lynn boys. They're good, you know, or whatever. He's going to say to them to start motivating them. They're a part-time team. They've come double back-to-back promotions. Most of the players won't know who they are, etc., who we are. Sorry, and it's a little bit more difficult, therefore. Yeah. So our strength is that we can, you know, we can go and, you know, the lads don't need too much motivation. Playing at this level is motivation enough. Of course, it's a different scenario so there's no pressure on us, is what I'm trying to say. We just show up and we just play. But we're a good football team. We don't just kick people over. We don't dive. We don't cheat. No one falls on the ground. You'll watch the game on Saturday. You'll say that was true. Yeah. We stay on our feet. We're perhaps too honest. Yeah. If I'm being honest, and I look at what has come, we watched Boreham Wood come down to us, and the guy, big bloke up front. I've never seen a guy, you know, one little touch and he's down like a sack of potatoes. We know who I'm referring to, you know. And
they did us at Meadow Lane. Yeah, they did us. Yeah.
It takes a lot to knock him off his feet, I would have thought. But yeah, you know, but he knows how to play the game, and we perhaps are a little bit naive there. You know, that we don't know how to play the game. Not that we don't know, but we're just too honest sometimes, and that, you know, maybe we shouldn't be. But I'll let the managers sort that out. But the reality is, we're a good football side, and we try and play to the best of our ability. Our pitch, we spend a lot of money on it. You'll come and look at it on whenever it is, Saturday.
Friday. Saturday,
Friday.
you're right.
It's Saturday, yeah. Christmas Friday, it might be a little bit early. But anyway, it's a little bit, I mean, it gets a lot of water and it doesn't get enough sunlight, and that towards the main stand side, but we've spent a fortune on it trying to get it better. And what we'd like to do is get a Desso pitch down, but we need to have a cut or sell someone. Yeah. Well, that would be great if we could, because now they used to be very expensive, but now they're 250,000. It's still very expensive, but they used to be £1 million, and now there's the patent's gone. So now there's two other companies that are doing them at £250,000, and that's not so bad, comparatively, but we've still got to work. You know, it's still a lot of money to find when you've got all the other stuff to do. So, but you know, anyway, you'll see what you make out of that. Obviously, you won't be able to be there, sadly, will you?
No. The one person that will is Leigh, so he's just about made it back from Warpeth. So presumably you're looking forward to going to Kings Lynn, because we've already had the owner confirm that you can get in, because it's not always been. Dover tried to kick you out, didn't they, or not let you in on the first game of the season?
Well, it's all to do. I mean, I've had a few problems this season. Dover was one, but they let me in the end. Halifax, surprisingly, wouldn't let me in, despite the quality of their stadium. But that's a story for another day. But I've been to the Walk before. I remember doing a pre-season game there with Lincoln City many years ago. It's listen, I love non-league. I think it's brilliant. I think it's honest. I think it's, as Morpeth proved on Saturday, I think a lot of clubs are very hospitable, and I think what separates it from sort of like the sort of higher echelons of the game is that you get the feeling that everybody's there just because they love it. You know, it's not a league that's awash with money. The National League, non-league, doesn't have the glamorous stadiums and settings that, we see on the TV. But you get the sense when you get down there that doesn't matter. They're just there for the love of the game. And, that's great. And it's fantastic. And I'm really looking forward to the game on Boxing Day. I know I remember seeing a tweet actually about Kings Lynn of a goal that you scored. And it was almost like, watching a non-league Manchester City. I think it was about 85 passes or something ridiculous.
Yeah, 28 against Southport away, that was. Yeah, it was.
That was the one. I think it'll be a very, very difficult game. I think Kings Lynn will be right up for it. They've got a good little striker in Adam Marriott. I'm pretty sure he's still there. He's a bit Lincoln.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be a real tough game. They'll be up for it, and with the fans being in, I'm sure that will make a difference as well. So I think it's got the hallmarks of a fantastic game and a really absorbing encounter.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure with your pennies, you would have loved Notts County fans to be allowed to go for Boxing Day. And I think, Chris, I mean, I would have genuinely thought Boxing Day away at Kings Lynn, Notts would have taken depending how many you would have allowed us, but 1,000 to 1,500 fans. New ground for a lot of us, you see. New ground. But last year we took 700, 800 to all sorts of ridiculous places. Dover, Barrow. I mean, it's a great shame for the fans, Chris, isn't it? I mean, I've seen Notts on something like 137 grounds, believe it or not. Shows you how many we've bounced up and down the divisions down the years. Great shame for fans that we can't get our diet of football, not just at Meadow Lane, but going away as well, games. Chris.
Yeah, it's one of those frustrating parts of the season. But if we think about how last season was with Alec shut everything down, it's just nice to have football being played. So, I think fans will be missing to go to the game on Saturday, but at the same time, we'll be able to watch it. We'll be picking up the live stream, so at least in spirit we'll be there.
Yeah, I just hope the live stream functions a bit better than your microphone and Wi-Fi feed, Chris. I tell you what. Well, I'm sure we'll get it sorted.
Yeah, we put in replays, and we've got a fixed wire connection now, so we actually have replays of goals and
right,
cameras. Yeah, we've got a BAFTA-nominated documentary maker by the name of Reg Clark, who rang me up about, I don't know, a week before the season started, and he said, could you find me a role? He said, I don't want paying, but I'm living in Kings Lynn now. I want something to do. So really? I can find something for you to do. So the next day he was here, and the next day after that he was at the club and employed as and so that's it. So he runs it all. It's a military operation. He has about 12 people there, 3 cameras, a GoPro behind the goals, and he replays it all. So it's a decent, it's a decent system. So I don't think you'll complain too much. I hope you will anyway. Well,
you're selling it well. How does it work? From the financial perspective of the feeds, because you will probably get 700-800, I would think, subscriptions from Notts fans for the game. Do you get a percentage of that? How does it work?
I'll be really honest. I don't know the exact. I should know, but I don't know the exact percentages because we charge £10 plus VAT, which is 12 quid, slightly more than most people. But I wanted to put on a decent show and have a half-hearted effort, which a lot of our fans have found with other clubs. And
that's my point. When we played Sutton, it was like it's not a problem. No. Leigh wouldn't have heard it, but me and Chris would have heard it, and it was kind of like the fan with the microphone. Nothing wrong with that, because they wouldn't be used to sort of 800 away fans dialing in on these streams, but it was commented upon by our Notts fan base. So,
and they often freeze as well.
Yes, Dover first game. We froze in the 89th minute from the corner that gave them their goal when we lost 1-0. So there was a lot of freezing going on and off the camera that day.
I think we spent some money. We got in a very good brand new laptop, because that's important when you stream. Apparently, the laptop quality of some. Anyway, I just said, look, we'll spend the money, we'll charge a little bit more, and we'll have a decent product rather than having a half-hearted product. The commentary is slightly different. That's slightly more difficult. So we have Mark Hurl, who is a kind of media officer. He was our media officer for many years. Now he runs our commercial side, or will be soon. And I sit alongside him and do the summing up to give him some colour and keep him company. So
we'll be hearing you on Saturday, will we?
You get me double whack this week.
How do you remain impartial?
I do and I don't. Well, obviously, there's some bits when I can't remain impartial, but I do. What we try and do is we do talk about it from the Notts side as well. And it's funny enough, I think I had several emails when we played. Torquay thanking me for it. They loved the commentary and thought it was great, because it's not just that. I also talk about. I've spoken to Jason Turner a few times at your club. So Jason was very good, because when we set this game up for Boxing Day, I rang Jason and said, Jason, where are you going to ask for Boxing Day? He was umming and ahhing. I said, Jason, we're your nearest club. Yep. I said, if you don't say Kings Lynn, then you might end up going on a much longer journey. And obviously, from my perspective, I was very keen from a financial side of things. That we got you on. I thought by then fans will be back in the stadium, so we'll have a banged, full out, sold out Brown. Except little did we know. So I was very pleased when Jason agreed and said, no, that makes sense. Yeah. And last season, I think you went somewhere south from Boxing Day. I can't remember.
Maidenhead. We had Maidenhead on New Year's Day. That was it.
Oh, bloody hell, mate. I remember that. Yeah, I went on the train. Yeah, it took me eternity to get there.
That's it. So I was trying to take that away from you. Yeah, give you a nice, easy journey. But there we go. Little did I know that this was all going to be still in the distance, playing out on Boxing Day. So he's been very kind to us, Jason, and helped us a lot through various things. And so I try and put some anecdotal stuff in, which I don't know whatever I'm going to say. I don't rehearse it. I don't look anything up. I just say it as I see it, and and it works all right. Well, you'll tell me, no doubt, after you've heard it on Saturday, if you think it's any good or not.
So it's great to have you on tonight. So all the Notts fans listening, if it freezes for more than 1 second, you will of course give everybody their full money back. Yeah.
Well, I'll have to blame it on their own. Wi-Fi at that point, because it can't possibly be ours. But anyway, they will ring me and say, I mean, we've not had it, but I mean, I'm hopeful that it will be good, because it must be awful watching it, having the delay and having it on the radio, and anyway, so I'm hopeful that it will be all right. Yeah, the last one worked perfectly. We had a couple of issues at the very early stages, but we have ironed those out now, so it should be good. Yeah? Fingers crossed.
What do you reckon, Leigh? You never hear the commentaries, do you?
I heard about the Sutton one, but you see, again, it all adds to part of the charm. I think, when people look back at the season, at the end of it, when it's all done and dusted, people will go, do you remember that Sutton game and that commentator? And it just gives you something to talk about. I've not really, when I was off with my art op, I watched Chesterfield away, and I thought that stream was pretty good. I watched Halifax. So, listen, I think what non-league clubs are having to do, and with everything that's going on in the pandemic, I think they're going above and beyond the call of duty to try and get these games out, because it's often coming at their own expense as well. But no, some of them have been fantastic. But I did hear about the the Sutton commentator. So fair play to him, because it can't be easy. I'm just interested to know, Stephen, how badly has the pandemic hit the football club in terms of budgets? Have you had to cut back on anything, like overnight stays or anything like that?
No, I mean, it's hit us badly, but we haven't cut back on anything at all. So that's been amazing, really. And I don't know, I was talking to a couple of people about it the other day, and I can't explain how we've got through it, but somehow we've got through it. I always just try and have a goal in mind, but equally I've got to be, I remember speaking in March to one of our fans funny enough, in the sponsors area. He'd sponsored the game, and he said to me, look, I was complaining about this player on wanting this, and this sponsor wanting that, and this thing, anyway, all this stuff. And he just said to me, all your job is, Steve, is to make sure we're here at the end of next season. Yeah, and he's right. Yeah, and I said, you know what, that's absolutely true. So all I've been doing is making sure that we can get through it. Now we lost. We had 3 good pre-season friendlies lined up against league opposition, which we lost, which was revenue number 1 gone. We had lots of external events which we'd just built up, from weddings to all sorts of stuff, all gone. So there was big holes. And it wasn't from mismanagement. It was just from that's what it was. Yeah, and but equally, I realised that we were in a horrible situation like everyone else. But we had to somehow do it. And then obviously the government money, the national lottery money as well, however that's been split up, has helped it massively. There's no question about that. And then obviously in January we don't know what's going to happen going forward, because no one's told us, and whether it's going to be, because if it's going to be loans, it's going to be very hard for us to pay back. We got a bounce back loan, which everyone could get, which has also helped. And in reality, I suppose I didn't want to take away the overnight stays, because the manager likes to, he has a way of doing things, and I like him to be able to do things. What my job is to enable the guys to perform on the pitch, and do what I can off the pitch to enable that to happen. So if the manager wants to stay away at night, then I think that's what we should do. And so that's what we do. So we did lose one, which was the one we lost, Hartlepool, because we were going to stay away the night for that. Then it got switched to a Tuesday, so then there's no point staying away at night. But of course then my coach bill went up 300 quid, because then they got to have 2 coach drivers on the on the coach, not one. So it cost me more on the coach, but but there is no hotel. So it's all swings and roundabouts. But it's like when we went to Portsmouth, it cost me a couple of grand for the hotel. It cost me nearly that again for the coach. And we got back, or we're getting back, 600 quid from Portsmouth. So whilst we did win some money, 3,500 quid automatically gets lost on that, etc. So, and the same thing will happen, no doubt, when we play Alfreton tomorrow in the trophy. Yeah, we won't get the. So you can see the issues. It isn't easy running clubs, and every football club's different. They're all unique. They've all got their own certain things, and some clubs are very good with their fans raising money. I mean, Chesterfield the other day raised 20 grand in 2 days. I couldn't raise 20 grand in 3 years, let alone 2 days. So, but that's not necessarily, it's different numbers of fans, and it's not having a go at our fans, because our fans have been excellent and they've tried very hard, the ones that can help. But it's so we just have to say, okay, what we've got is what we've got. Let's just try and get through the best we can. And there have been certain, our sponsors have all been excellent. Both our shirt sponsors have paid. Our back shirt sponsor is paid. So we've had 3 good sponsorships there. All of our boards, 99% renewed. So that was good. We put the price up a little bit as well. Match sponsorship's been a bit more tricky because they haven't been able to come in. But you see what I'm saying? So we've kept a lot of it going. And so I don't quite know. If you asked me to write a book and say, can you explain me how you did it? I wouldn't be able to tell you that. I just know we've done it. So that's the only thing that really,
Very interesting tale about the overnights there, Stephen. Back in the Jurassic era, 1990, when Notts had Neil Warnock first setting out on his managerial ascendancy, he got back-to-back promotions with Notts County, and he got into the top flight. And he always wanted to take the team overnight. But we had quite a charismatic, very successful chairman in Derek Pavis, and Derek was very tight on things, and he wouldn't let them go overnight unless it was at least 2.5 hours. Mm-hmm. And Neil would say, look, I've got you into the top flight. We're going to Manchester United on the opening day of the season. I want to go overnight. No, you'll go on the day. So when Notts played Manchester United on the opening day of the 1991 season, when Schmeichel was making his debut for Manchester United, Kanchelskis was playing, Notts were not allowed to go overnight to Manchester. And Derek's argument against Neil was that, well, you've got us promoted back to back without going overnight, so it don't give us any advantage. You don't need to. So there's, like you say, different clubs. I'm sure Derek wouldn't get away with it now, or any chairman that gets us back into the top flight. Chris, top of the show, we spoke with Stephen about why become an owner. Yeah. Talk to me a little about, but clearly you're a massive Notts fan, but why do you end up spending a large proportion of your time, and I know these things take more time than they always do, effectively running, a premier Notts independent fan site? Why'd you do it?
I've become mad, to be honest.
We're all mad, I think. Yeah, go on.
Fan. Yeah. My grandfather was such the thing. He always thought it was important for young fans to get involved. One of the aspects of Pond that I'm really proud about is my family are really behind me. They weren't instantly on board at the start. My wife helped me, but it's a family. My son, my daughters are on it, and they post, and it's just a way to get involved. And back when I originally started in 2013, I think it was the 2012 and 2013 season, I didn't know many fans, and it was just my way to get into the community in a sense. And I've always felt proud about the club. I always thought the history was something that we should be proud about. And we're a creative bunch. If we look on social media now, we've got Magpie History, we've got the Magpie Circle, we've got Get It Forward. So we are a creative bunch of fans. And I was there thinking, well, I've got this kind of talent. I enjoy building websites, because in my background, I had 2 sites before that, which had moderately good success. And I thought, well, why not do a Notts site?
You're quite artistically skilled, aren't you? Are those drawings in the background your own?
Yes.
So you've done them yourself?
Yeah. I use Adobe Illustrator to basically draw the players. So
I tell you, they're very, very good.
They are, aren't they? Aren't they good?
They are very, very good. Genuine. I'm looking at the Don Masson one. I mean, that is Don. That is Don.
Thank you.
Yeah, they're exceptional. And you're selling a few, aren't you, as well? Have I seen somewhere on the Facebook side?
Yeah, I sell all of them, to be honest. I've got quite a lot of them signed as well. I just charge moderate fees because I want people to own them. I don't want people to, shell out too much. So I'd sell them for moderate prices, really. A4's like £12 and A3's are 15. I don't make a huge profit on that, but what it does is it gives back to the fans, really, and it helps me fund the website.
I tell you, I think they are very good. They're very good. And I think you do a great job with the website. Sadly, social media, there's always a few numpties around, right? So if anyone has a pop at you, send them over to me, okay? Send them over to me. I'll sort them out. Do you get any numpties, Stephen, at Kings Lynn? I mean, that you shouldn't do, really, given what you've done in the last 3 years. But there's always a few basking in that cloak of anonymity on social media, aren't they? They're always very brave, aren't they?
Yeah, keyboard warriors, aren't they? Sometimes I don't get too many. I get the odd person here and there who thinks I'm making money out of the football club, and I take a sack of cash away at the end of each game, and bask on I don't know what they think I do, but they all I say to them is, look, why don't you just download the accounts from Company's House and you'll see what it costs me every year, and then you can work out what I'm actually putting in rather than what I'm taking out. But they can't get their heads around it. They think it's a thing. But it's not many people, to be fair. Most of the numpties I get are opposition. I don't get a load of opposition fans. I had a York City fan. He said to me that I'm his second club. Kings Lynn, not me. I'm his second. Kings Lynn are his second club now. And I said, why? He said, well, I like the way you engage. And my problem is when I do engage, but that's also a negative, because then, of course, it leaves you very open to attack when you do engage. So if it gets too personal and stuff like that, I just cut them off and say, that's it, enough's enough. But if it's a reasonable discussion, I don't mind having a discussion with. Look, I made a mistake last game. We charged kids the same price to get in as everyone else because I thought we'd sell out. The health and safety group said to me, look, Steve, you've got to have to put on extra stewards. You've got to pay for these stewards. They're going to have to be COVID trained stewards, etc. So our costs are going through the roof. So I suddenly thought, well, let's just make it one admission price for everyone. It's one price for seating, one price for standing. That's it. And that's the end of it. But then now, a lot of people complained about it. Not a lot. I mean, 3/4 of people understood exactly why. So I explained the reason. And when I take my two kids out, I've got a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old. I can't get anywhere with them for less than 20 quid for a day. So I don't understand how other people can, because I'd like to know where they're taking them, because I'll certainly start going there too. But I've never known it anyway. But and I'm talking locally in Norfolk, not just anywhere, anywhere. So but one or two people took advantage of it and said, no, that's wrong. So this time I said, okay, we're going to let kids in. For one of the businesses I have is called Collect Soccer, which sells football memorabilia. So I put my Collect Soccer hat and said, all right, I'll write the check out for the difference between the 22 quid and the 6 quid, and pay it. And we'll do 200 kids. And then what you would expect, but they have to be with adults, because the problem with
company.
I can't have people wandering around. People were attacking me for it, but you can't have people wandering around with no one controlling them. Anyway, then we'll see. But the ticket sales for kids hasn't gone. We had a few last time. We haven't had many this time. It hasn't made a lot of difference. It may have made 5 or 6 people, or maybe 7 or 8. But when I last looked, so the numbers. Because everyone always talks about money, saying, if you made it half the price, you get double the crowd. But that isn't the truth. I've often done things and tested things over the years and done it very cheaply, and it hasn't made any difference to the crowd. So it's a very fluid thing, because you don't want to take the mickey out of people saying, listen, here we go. Because if I did it on admission prices when I first got to the football club, which I think was only a tenner, versus our wage budget at £3,000, and was to work that ratio out now. So £6,000 budget would be 20 quid, £9,000 would be 30, etc. People would go crazy. So I'm not paying that. But nevertheless, that's exactly the same ratio as what we would have done. So it is difficult. And there are no right ways of doing it, or there are no wrong ways. You just try. What you're trying to do is find a way through, and hoping the club and the fans back you. Because with their backing me, the more they put into the football club, the more I can spend on the budget, and the more the manager gets to spend on the budget, and the better players we get. So it's as simple as that. It's a formula which, the more money, the better the player. That's really what it boils down to. So, but anyway, as a general rule, I have to say our fans very, very decent. And so many of them email me and write to me saying, don't listen to that stuff on social media, yeah, you're doing the right thing, and thanks very much. Yeah, and they're very appreciative and kind, and and it's great on a match day like last week when I went against Torquay. I could walk around the stadium and say hello to so many faces. I don't know their names, but you recognise the faces, and having the smile back and their mojo back. A lot of these people some of the people don't have a huge amount in their lives, but football's a kind of focus for it, and to take that away from them is really quite cruel, I think. And you can just see that they're so pleased just to be standing there where they've stood for years, and having that opportunity to be back in the ground. So it is what it is. I have a thick skin. I don't take it too personally. I just they have a go, but if they don't have a go, that's great.
Leigh, now I think I'm right in saying this. Have we played in front of any fans at all this season? Don't think we have we?
No,
because we should have at Yeovil. We got called off with COVID, which I think was the first game.
That was going to be
should have been the first game. So Saturday at Kings Lynn, the Walks, it's going to be the first time we're playing in front of fans, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it'd be really interesting. I mean, I'm fascinated to know the impact of what having no fans in the stadium has had on teams this season. I don't know what you think about this, Stephen. Have Kings Lynn found it a little bit easier going away to the bigger grounds when there's been no fans in? Do you think that's had sort of any bearing on the results or anything?
Yeah, I think my personal view, and I haven't asked what the club thinks, but my personal view is that having no fans in a stadium takes away the home advantage completely. There's no home advantage anymore because there's no one that atmosphere, that pressure that the referee feels. Sometimes on a 50-50. Penalty decisions, etc. We've had some horrific penalty decisions against us, but that aside, it has been. You can notice that sometimes the decision may have been slightly changed or altered with fans. And so often, I think personally, it's taken away that advantage altogether, and it's gone. I mean, we're allowed 1,400 fans in for Notts County.
Is that what it is? Yeah. Will you be full? Will you be full?
Well, I thought we would be, but I mean, without COVID, we would have sold out 5,000. Yeah, with no question. But with no question. But people are terrified now. So we've sold 702 tickets at the moment. I know our health and safety guy was worried that Notts County fans would have just because anyone can go on the website and just buy a ticket. They're on, as long as they turn up with the ID, which matches the ticket they're in. It doesn't have to be Norfolk based because we've got fans that come from Birmingham, from Kent, from everywhere, all around the country. So it's not when we sell stuff all around the world, you wouldn't believe, to Australia, America, to Canada, even though it's a small club, it just still has that. It's just football, I guess, where no one can really explain these things, but they do happen. So anyway, we've got 702 sold at the moment. That's what it was this morning. I don't know what it is this afternoon. I would expect it to be 850, 900. I doubt it sells out. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe as people are sure that Christmas won't be cancelled and they're not, going to find that. But anyway, so maybe it will at the last minute. We'll see. We had 625 at the last game, so it's higher. I think it will build and build and build as people get more and more.
So what was that atmosphere like? Because that's effectively the first game in the Vanarama League top flight that you will have had fans in your ground for. And I would imagine.
Yeah.
A point against Torquay, given Torquay's form this season, you'd have been pretty pleased with that.
I was pleased, and I thought it was a great advert for the game. Great football match. Not often you would say a 0-0 was a great game, but it was a really good football match. They defended fantastically, Torquay, really well to a man. They were really good, and it could have gone. The game could have been anything. Could have been 3-3. It could have been 0-0. It was 0-0. Could have been either of us could have won it. But I sit on the terrace. That makes sense because I'm in the commentary position. I'm not allowed to sit in the seats because it's all rigged up the wire to the whatever it's rigged up to, and so I sit down. So the only problem for me with fans is they block my view, because I'm sitting down on a seat, so I can't see so well that I used to see. But I'd much rather they were there and my view was blocked when they weren't there, and I could see what was going on. But it made a huge difference. The noise level they made, the 600 fans sounded like 2,000 fans to me, and it's a great place to come. Kings Lynn really is a great ground, and I think your players will enjoy it. I think players want to play. But I lost a player at the beginning of the season, Chris Henderson's good footballer. He dropped down 3 levels, and he said, "Look, I'm not." I mean, one of his reasons were, I think money was part of it, but one of the reasons was, he didn't want to put the travelling in, put the effort in, and
Yeah.
not be able to play in front of fans. Playing in front of fans to him was a lot of the reason for wanting to play football. And so therefore, if he may as well get the same money and not have to travel at all, and and drop down to level 6, which or 5, whatever it is, which is ridiculous for a player of his quality. He's a very good footballer, but that's his choice. That's what he did. I think he's going to regret it in years to come. But that I told him so. But you can't change the minds. That's once they're made up, they're made up. So you have to let them go off with love. Say thank you so much for what you did. So I think now that fans are back, I think it certainly gave our players a lift. There's no question about that. And it's so much better, because football without the fans in, it just doesn't feel. Everything about it's wrong. There's no theatre to it. It's boring. It's two-dimensional. It's not joined up. It has to have fans to be part of the day. Even watching it on telly, I have it on. I used to avidly watch lots of games, but now with the fans not there, I've got not the same passion to watch it, which is ridiculous, but it's how it is.
So, Leigh, so we first game with fans in for you then on Saturday.
Yeah, looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to having seen a bit of atmosphere. I agree with Stephen completely. I think football without the supporters in through the turnstiles makes it for a very dull watch. I mean, I mean, to be honest, you turn it to a game and you would struggle to know whether it was a pre-season friendly or a competitive fixture, a reserve team game. You can't differentiate. It might have the National League badge on it, but if you were to turn up blind and walk in, someone would say, well, may as well just be a reserve game without any supporters in there. So I think, the players, you've got to give credit to the players, because I think, they've done tremendously well, because it must have affected them psychologically, but, they still pull out all the stops to try and give us a great game. But no, it'd be nice to hear a bit of atmosphere, a bit of singing, and may the best team win.
Chris, well, you and I will be on the stream listening to the dulcet tones of the Kings Lynn owner and chairman. What's it been like for you not to have gone to a Notts County game since, I don't know, March?
It's weird, because football is one of the things where everyone gets up on a Saturday or a weekday, and it's their escape from real life in a way, and they get to meet around. And that's one of the huge things that I miss from attending football matches, is the social side of football. But it's like I say, it's weird at the same time, but it's good that we've got football being played. And I agree that there's no home advantage, and that it lacks that kind of realism. But at the same time, it's, I'd rather have football being played and enjoy being able to see Notts, play, win, draw, whatever. It's just important that we keep playing, and I don't know those things were.
I mean, it's an important point you make about the social aspect of football, because it's one thing, the actual 90 minutes on the pitch is actually only a part of real football, isn't it? It's meeting Definitely. Your mates, it's having your pie, it's having the pint, it's going down the pub, getting on the bus, going on the train, whatever it is. It's a social fabric of interaction, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And even with away games, people will queue for the coach, and we'll be excited about seeing a new stadium. And when COVID is finally under control, it'll be a breath of fresh air to be able to go to Kings Lynn or Maidenhead or Chesterfield, any of those National League teams. It will be just nice to go see them.
Indeed it will, and it is, I think, doubly frustrating with it being a Boxing Day, and the fact that this would have been Notts County's first visit to Kings Lynn, I think, for just about any Notts fan under the age of about 112. So so it's a bit unfortunate. We can at least listen to the home team chairman's dulcet tones, so that will be interesting. We didn't know that. Thank you very much indeed, everyone, tonight. It's been very illuminating to listen to an owner and a chairman, Stephen, and get an insight. I've certainly been quite fortunate to be in that football bubble many years, but for people like Chris, and even a little bit with Leigh tonight, just to get a bit of an insight, how those sums stack up with, 2 bus drivers, because, and all of those sorts of things. Fans don't think of it like that. And, there is absolutely no way on earth you are going to be making a profit out of Kings Lynn season on season. If any fans ever give you any jip, no way on earth, no way on earth. You know, not unless you somehow have a remarkable FA Cup run and get Arsenal, Liverpool. I mean, which to an extent Lincoln did, didn't they, a few years ago, Leigh? They had a good cup run and banked a few quid. But the reality is they made more money from one game on telly than probably they didn't top budget for the whole of the season.
So all it takes, one good cup. I mean, that ultimately changed the landscape at Lincoln. That run, I think it earned them about £2 million, I think, in the end. You know, with all the sponsorship, TV money, prize money, attendances, of course, gate receipts. And that ultimately changed the landscape for them because they were able to reinvest that into the squad, bought better players, and that has a knock-on an impact on in the league. They had a very good manager in Danny Cowley, and obviously rose where they are now. And they're, I think, second in League One. And you'd have to say sort of the sort of the foundation for that was probably laid by that cup run. You know, beating Burnley and going to Arsenal in the quarterfinal. So, you know, it just goes to show you it's what dreams are made of, isn't it?
Yeah. I think
let's just wrap up on FA Trophy because we're both in that. So you've got to go to Alfreton tomorrow, Stephen. Then the only way is Essex. Brackets Hornchurch.
Yeah, well,
get through at Alfreton.
We can get through Alfreton. Alfreton's a tough place to go. It's not the most easy place. I don't like these regionalised draws because it's our third game against Alfreton in the cup since I've been at the club. So it's just the same teams you play. We've been at Buxton 2 or 3 times. It's just I like to go different places, not the same old places each time. So yeah. Anyway, let's see how we can get through against Alfreton, or if we can get through. Then, as you say, it's Hornchurch away, which I've never been to. Epping Forest way, I understand it is. I see an occasional sign when I drive into London. So but look, the trophy is a realistic chance for any National League club to go to Wembley. You were lucky. I watched a game at your final last season, obviously without fans, which was horrific, but at least it wasn't to be, but it was a final to be at Wembley, to be there, and it must
in the playoffs,
in the playoffs, and it must be playoff. It must be every player's dream to walk out onto that pitch and get have a chance to play on it, and even without fans, it's something, but with fans, and hopefully, by the time this 2021 final was played, it will have some fans in the stadium, so it will be worth it. So you've got a great game against Stockport. I watched them on telly against Stockport. I thought they were you minimalised them because Stockport, I was told, were the best team in the league, but you gave them they didn't look a threat at all. So you stopped them playing, and that's something to really to shout about. So that was a great from your perspective. So you'll go into that with confidence. I'm sure you've got a great chance of progressing. It'll be ahead of the game, I'm sure. And, so there's a realistic chance of going to Wembley. And I love a cup draw. Okay, the money's not what it was. I know they've chopped it, and it's worth 3,000 or 4,000 quid. It's not worth it, but what it is more than that. It should be about a pride. It should be about wanting to come through the other end and play on that pitch and take your busloads of fans to Wembley and remember it when you're in your 60s. That was a day out you can tell your grandchildren with a smile on your face, and it will bring them. You know what I mean? It's that stuff that makes it worthwhile for me being involved in football, and it must make it worthwhile for players being involved in it as well.
Absolutely. Just a final word on Stockport, Liv. You spoke to them at the club, or what's the take on Stockport?
No, well, I'm on a late shift today, but I did sort of log on to see the cup draw, hoping that Notts would get a team at home. But I don't know what it is with this club and away cup draws. Honestly, I can count on one hand how many home draws they've had. And of course, it would have to be probably the most difficult ties. Well, probably the most difficult team that Notts could have got, in the competition. So, listen, they had it last year with Yeovil, didn't they, when they were in the playoffs and went there and won with 9 men in the end. So, listen, the squad's in a good place. I'm sure Neil will probably use it as a chance to rotate some of the players in the squad. Be a fantastic game. I'm sure Ollie Holt will be looking forward to it again. Notts have got a very good chance, like Stephen said. It's the most realistic chance any non-league side's got going to Wembley. So nearly got there last year in the trophy. So let's see if they can go one better this time around.
Stephen, final. Just wanted to. Chris. Stephen mentioned about Wembley. You see, I'm old, right? So I've seen Notts play at Wembley and win at Wembley. Yeah, 2 playoff back-to-back finals with Neil Warnock. Anglo-Italian Cup finals. Are you too young to have ever been to Wembley with Notts?
No, I managed to go to Wembley. My grandfather made sure that I was at the both Anglo-Italian Cup finals, and I was at one of the semi-finals as well. but I missed out on the Brighton one because I was too young to go. My brother managed to go to that, but I have fond memories, even though I was really young, of the coach trip. I think Sister Act was on the coach TV as we went down, and just seeing the Twin Towers and the fans in the stadium, it was amazing. It'd be nice for us to go back.
Yeah, Wembley's the ultimate social occasion, and and my son who produces these, he's 23. He's got his own Sunday morning football team, all the lads, and since the turn of this millennium, it has been a very, very, very lean time to be a Notts fan compared to where they were in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. And it was a really unkind cut that we get to a Wembley playoff final against Harrogate, and then we can't go, Now, the way we played, I mean, probably just as well we're watching it from the telly. But, of course, there's always that imponderable, isn't there, Chris, that if we'd been there, mob-handed as Notts fans compared to Harrogate, could we have been that 12th man?
Yeah, I think we could have done. But, obviously, it weren't to be. But, I like to think that the way that our fans are, I think that we really do get behind a club. You can hear them on the radio. And I think the players will agree that we are missed from the stands. We give so much impact to the game. So, I definitely agree with that. And I think that in a way it would be nice for fans to return at some point.
Absolutely, it would. Gentlemen, I'm very conscious of all your time tonight. Thank you very much indeed. To Chris, from a fan's perspective.
Thank you.
Leigh, you're on a late shift, so you were working anyway, so you've had a bit of a busman's for an hour. And Stephen, thank you very much, very illuminating. I'm looking forward to hearing your punditry comments. And good friend of mine, I'll end on this. Good friend of mine from my time working at Leicester City is Martin O'Neill. And Martin's caused a bit of controversy over the weekend. He's gone viral on social media because he was commentating or colour commentating on Celtic's game up at Hearts, and he's had a dig at some of the pundits who've been giving Celtic a bit of a hard time, and he called them basement dwellers. Yeah, and of course this has reverberated, and of course all these other pundits now, are getting a bit touchy. Now, I am absolutely sure you will not be a basement dweller. There you go. And it will be very illuminated to hear some of your anecdotes and inside stuff on Saturday. You will be getting a fair few of our subscribers. So I'm glad you've got an award-winning BAFTA producer that can cope with the influx of Notts fans. Yeah. Please give our best to Jordan Richards. His father was a true legend for the club, Wish you all the very, very, very best for the season. After January, is it the 2nd or the 3rd when we've had our double header? So, gentlemen, thank you very much. This can also be downloaded and listened to separately, and we'll be posting some links on